hereby call to order the November 8th, 2024 public hearing of the City of Prescott Preservation Commission. Members present at this meeting, which are all of us, Marinos, James McCarver, Richard Spray, Diane Kravitz, Rob Johnson, Mike Finney, and myself, Mike Marco, Chair. Ms. Nunez, our preservation specialist.
Yes, please. It's okay.
I always forget to press the button.
It's okay for the beginning.
Okay. Yes, our historic preservation specialist, Kaylee, is not here today, but we have a replacement, George Worley, planning manager. I don't see, well, our recording secretary, Jacob Blood, and our mayor, Mr. Phil Good. This is an open public hearing as being recorded by the city. The proceedings are being televised by representative of the public media, local cable and/or radio stations, and may also be rebroadcast. The members present is unanimous. We're all here. It will require 4 of us. All parties wishing to be heard will be expected to state their name for the record. Please speak loudly, clearly, close to the microphone. Please, all electronic devices on mute, and I thank you. We have roll call. We need to approve our September 13th, 2024 minutes. Everybody.
And I would like, Mr. Chairman, I would like to approve those Preservation Commission meeting minutes of September 13th of 2024.
Everybody get a time to read them? Are we all in agreement? Can I have a vote?
I second it.
Well, we didn't have a vote yet. Oh,
We got a second.
I'm sorry. Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Very good. At this point, item B on our agenda, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Worley for HP 24-011.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request for a sign face replacement for Marinos Mob Burger. It is located on North Cortez. I've identified the location on the first slide, right across from Courthouse Plaza. The location is one that previously, years ago, had Kendall's Restaurant in it. For a little history, if you remember that, which goes a long way back in history, all the way to several movie appearances when it was Kendall's Restaurant. For all of you Kung Fu fans, Billy Jack had a scene or two in that location, as well as a couple of others. I know Kaylee likes to give you a little history of the building. Sorry, that just came out of my head. I did not put a slide in for it. The location's current sign is this. It's a white background sign with very dark blue letters. The language on the sign and the shape of the sign the structure that it's in, will remain the same. And the proposal is to take this face out and replace it with a blue background face. I have a closer view of it for you. Basically the same lettering, the same message. The difference is inverting the darker color lettering with lighter color lettering and the background from light to dark. The big difference in the way this will appear is that the letters will light significantly at night where the background won't. On the previous sign, one of the problems is the lighter background lights up and the lettering's not as visible. So this is one way to address that. The size, shape of the sign were approved previously, both by this commission and by the city staff based on our sign code, so it's in compliance. The face change, because face changes are required to go through this body to look at if you're within the Courthouse Plaza district, is before you today. Staff believes that this is a pretty innocuous change that may actually help a little bit with both the night bright glare that came off of the white background of the current sign and the readability of the sign's lettering. We do have a representative of a sign company here. A&B Sign Company is the company to do the work, and I'm open for questions. From our perspective, this is pretty straightforward, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have about our process, and I'm sure Brian would be happy to answer any questions about the design.
I think Mr. King has some comments.
Certainly.
Thank you. If you're confused, that is the proposed sign. There.
This is the proposed
That's
sign.
the proposed sign,
with
yes.
a blue background
Yeah.
and white lettering, as opposed to the existing sign.
That's
Which
that's
is
the existing sign, but it's a long time ago because
It
I
is.
walked by that sign this morning. It is weathered, it is beat up,
Oh, yes.
and it doesn't look like that at all today. So it needs to be refurbished, and that's why you're here. I was surprised to see the old sign because I couldn't see that today when I walked by it. On the left and on the right, next to Burgers and Cream, is a Pepsi-Cola. Now, you can't read that at all on the existing sign. I couldn't see it at all. And so I just didn't, and wanted you to know that that's not the way it looked when you walked down the street today.
No,
But
this is
the
an
other one,
older
that the
picture.
blue one is there. So I did review the sign. I know it's minor, but I did review the sign shoulds for the Courthouse Plaza. And when you have a sign that identifies the business, it says, I would use the words, it should be identification only and not for advertising. So there's Pepsi on the sign.
Yes.
So that's it's a should. So I walked around the plaza, and there's two businesses in town that have at their identification. One of them is the Palace. It says Palace, and then it says A1 Pilsner. That sign's hysterical.
Yeah.
I mean, historical. But
Both.
I mean, it's pretty much old, and we accept that convention because the master plan came later. The other one, of course, is the Harley Davidson. Well, that's the name of the store. Are you advertising? No, that's the name of your store. So everybody else is to just name what their business is. If it's coffee or beer or gifts, they don't say the name. They don't say Starbucks coffee. They don't say Budweiser. They put those signs on the windows.
Yes.
On the windows, and we don't discourage that because they're neon signs and there's a little bit of advertising on our windows. So again, it should say should. It doesn't mean that you can't take the Pepsi off, but this is a chance to kind of take the Pepsi off of the new sign, because I couldn't see Pepsi on the old sign. If it's there, I just didn't see it because it was so weathered.
It was there originally.
Yeah, okay. So I wanted people to know that that's the preferred sign right there with advertising. It doesn't mean mandatory that we can't approve it, but we have an opportunity to kind of, and also the little top hat, and I can't see the middle. I think it's kind of a martini glass. Those are similar to what's on the glass that you have there now. Pretty nice, classy drawings of the elegance of the mob, kind of mob figures.
The mob
so I can see that that's up there. Gives you a little theme, but I would just use the words. My preference, but we'll see how the dialogue goes.
Thank you. Any other dialogue questions?
Hi, this is Jim McCarver. For Mr. Worley, as far as the requirements for the size of the sign and the fact that it extends out 3 or 4 inches from the surface, those are all within the requirements.
The original sign was reviewed under the city sign code by staff prior to it coming to you. We did not re-review all of that because this is a face panel change only, so the structure of the sign is remaining the same. Because it was reviewed and approved prior to that, we presume compliance with all of our code requirements.
Same with the coloring.
The coloring is the issue today. They want to change the sign color out. The city's sign code has no color limitations on signs other than certain really bright colors, which we discourage. So this is really an aesthetics question for you to look at. As with Mr. King's question about the Pepsi logo, is the color of this proposed sign background appropriate for the downtown Courthouse Plaza district?
One more thing. Are you just going to replace the surface? Is the frame that it's in remain the same, or you replace the whole sign?
Good morning, Brian Wywick. We're just replacing the polycarbonate face that slides into the metal framework. So the frame stays the same? Yes.
One
Rob
question.
Johnson.
How long has that sign been up, the original sign, do you know?
A little history here. Kendall's Famous Burgers and Ice Cream was my first job, and I was his first employee before he even opened.
Could you pull that microphone up for you?
So that was my very first job. So I worked there a couple of years for Kendall, but I believe that we installed that sign for Kendall's, and that would have been back in like '87, maybe something like that. '87, yeah.
Okay.
But the face panel was changed out when the business changed, so that was more recent. That was 2010-ish, I think.
Yeah, probably around 2010. Yeah.
So just for my own information, probably, what are the rules around grandfathering when it comes to this kind of stuff?
I'm not sure what you mean. If the sign's been in place for longer than the current code requirements, it's considered a legal grandfather. Illegal non-conforming is the technical term. So the current sign code went into effect about the 2010, 2012 timeframe. There was a version that was adopted with the Land Development Code in 2005, and then it was amended around 2010-ish. To make some changes to how you calculate signs, but most of the downtown business signs predated that and are legal non-conforming as to size.
Rick's Brain. Just out of curiosity, is Pepsi paying for the sign?
I was going to ask
Good
the same
question.
question.
Partially, yes. Yeah, they are involved.
So, Jim McCarver, what other colors were considered for the background?
The design and colors were, we didn't have anything to do with that. Pepsi and their staff did the design and the layout. So we're just kind of in between here doing the fabrication and installation.
So Pepsi designed or the current appearance. They're the ones who came up with that. Huh?
Correct.
So they're going to be upset if we ask to remove their name.
You have the ability to place conditions on your approval, including a condition similar to the situation that Mike King talked about a few moments ago. If the primary purpose of signage in the downtown is emphasizing the name of the business and removing services provided, such as selling Pepsi, that can be your action. And they'll have to deal with who pays for it.
Anyone else?
I just wonder what it would look like if you matched the background with the awning as more of a rust color. Do you have any opinion about that, since you're an expert?
Yeah, in my opinion, I that's the way Kendall's sign was. It had a burgundy background and I think white lettering on it, which is, I believe that's the awning, probably the original awning from when it was Kendall's. So
I do believe the blue is a Pepsi color.
Again, you
know,
have the
folks.
ability to, in your motion, you can put conditions on your approval. And if those conditions involve colors or removal of parts of the sign, that is within your jurisdiction, and you may do so.
I move that we approve the sign as presented. My information wasn't a concern, it was a should. We have a chance to change it if we want to. The sign predates the sign information, but it doesn't predate the master plan, and it is a should. I can live with the sign with the Pepsi on there, as long as, and you can vote on that or not. That's all the concern I have, was that we do it together, we know what a should is, and we have the flexibility. I move that we approve the request HP 24-007. Well, wait a minute, I'm looking, I don't have my right. I'm on the second page here.
011.
Oh, I'm in the wrong, I don't have the whole package, that's why. Sorry, I don't have the whole package, yeah. HP 24-011, that we approve the sign as presented. Do I have a
Diane
second?
Travis, I second.
Any other discussion?
Yes.
Oh,
Just looking at the plan, and I'm reading this, it doesn't say should, it said signing shall be used for identification only and not for advertising.
Well, that's not what I read this morning, it said should. It's the Courthouse Plaza District Plan. Yeah. And specifically, I read the courthouse. I mean, you can research it. I didn't bring my phone in. That's where I read it 2 or 3 times already. But it's in the courthouse district. That's where you'll find the shoulds.
well, now,
We have the flexibility.
I think it should be taken off.
You do have a motion you need to take action on first, and if that fails, an alternative motion can be made.
so we do have a motion. Let's vote. To vote on approving the sign. So, all,
second.
and
And
do we
a
have,
second.
who's second? Oh, Diane's second. All right, let's vote. Anybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? We got 3. We have 4 to
I
2. Rob, are
counted
you
4-2.
abstaining?
It was 4-2.
Oh, it was 4?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't see his hand. I guess it's approved.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a staff update for you.
Well,
It's
that's,
the
I
next
was
item.
just going to ask you.
Very
Go
good.
right ahead.
As you may have recalled, you approved the design of a very large building to replace the old city hall.
I can't hear you, Joe.
Sorry. As you may recall, you approved the design of a building to replace the old city hall. Part of the review and approval process for larger buildings in the downtown business district requires what's called a special use permit review by the Planning Commission. It was written into the Land Development Code under the assumption that most of the development in downtown could happen in areas that are outside of your jurisdiction. You have jurisdiction within local historic preservation districts, and most of the downtown business district lies within National Register districts where you don't have a review authority. So the Land Development Code set up a process, the SUP process, to make sure those larger buildings are sent to you for at least a courtesy review, and your courtesy review comments go back to the Planning Commission for their consideration. Even though that's a little redundant given the circumstance here, it is written into the code, so we follow the code steps regardless of whether it seems redundant. We've scheduled that special use permit review, we call them an SUP review, for Planning and Zoning Commission next Thursday, the 14th. You're invited to attend that meeting if you can or want to. We're going to give them an explanation of the process and the reason for it being before them. And I've already given them the application and the minutes of your meeting where you reviewed and approved the design. So they have all of that background information in hand already. But you may want to step up and speak to it, so you're all invited to that meeting. Following Planning Commission's action, they make a recommendation that will go to the City Council. That will be likely sometime early in December. And again, we'll let you know prior to that meeting so that you can attend the council meeting as well.
George, that meeting is the 14th. It's here?
It's here. Yes. So Planning Commission meets exactly where you are. They meet Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. So a week from yesterday.
So just explain in the Cliff Notes version what you just said.
I thought that was the Cliff Notes version. So when the Land Development Code was written, the Historic Preservation Master Plan was already in place. The Land Development Code looked at the downtown business district, which is a fairly large area up downtown, and contemplated what happens when a large building gets built in downtown but not in a preservation district. And they put in a process to make sure that you would be involved in the review, and that process was the SUP, the special use permit process. In this particular case, because most of the building site is in the Courthouse Plaza district, which you have authority over, the Planning Commission review is sort of a secondary review. Normally theirs would be the primary, and you would do a courtesy review of a building. But in this case, you have the greater authority and have already made your decision. So they're re-reviewing what you did, but I don't expect that there would be much in the way of change. But we want to make sure you're available, if you can be, to answer questions. City staff will be there, and we will certainly be able to answer questions about the process and the zoning requirements. But and again, I gave them copies of the minutes of the Preservation Commission meeting as part of their agenda packet. So they have had a chance, or will have a chance by the time of the meeting, to read and review what you did and why you did it. You were very expressive about your actions, so I think it's very clear in the minutes what issues you looked at and what reasons you had for your vote. But again, we're following a process that's set out by code. Even if it seems redundant, it's set out by code, and we follow that process. Hopefully that was a long Cliff Notes version. Sorry.
That was the extended Cliff Notes version.
That's the only update I have for you, but I'm happy to answer questions.
The remodel of the old territorial courthouse on Cortez, is there? I was by it, and it's still boarded up in the front. Do you know what they're planning on doing with that? I know it's not our purview, but I'm curious.
They've been through several iterations of plan submittal to us, staff review, and then back to them for changes to comply with building and fire codes mostly. Those seems to be the bigger issue. Kaylee has been in touch with them regarding the front facade. The original submittal to us would not have removed that front facade. They submitted something afterwards that allowed them to do that in the form of a demolition permit. So we're working with them to get something back that's going to be compatible with the historic buildings nearby. At this time, it's out for corrections, I believe. I don't believe we have it back in review yet. And it'll stay boarded up for protection of the pedestrians in the area until they're able to start working again. Any other questions?
No other questions.
Thank you, Mr.
All right,
Chairman.
well,
Mr. Chairman.
Mike wants to make a comment again.
This is not about the hysterical commission. This is about one of our commissioners. For those of you that read the paper, there was a recent article on Commissioner Marianne Suttles and her volunteer efforts in the community with the Frontier Rotary. I know her. She's been involved with United Way. She's here right now volunteering her time and talents. So it was a nice honor for you, Marianne, and congratulations on that recognition. So that's all I have to say about that. Please give her a hand.
Good. Then I'll bring this meeting to adjournment.